All right, let's talk about a word that's pretty central to Christian theology: sin. You hear it a lot, right? But what does it actually mean? I mean, from a deep theological perspective. Well, today we're going to unpack the anatomy of sin based on our source material. So let's get right into it. So, right off the bat, we have to ask the most fundamental question: what even is sin, according to the Bible? And let me tell you, it's not just about a simple list of rules you're not supposed to break. Oh no, it goes way, way deeper than that. And here's the definition we're working with. It's really got two parts. The first part is probably what you'd expect. It's a transgression of God's law, basically breaking the rules. But it's the second part that's the real kicker: rebellion against God. See, it's not just about making a mistake here or there. It's framed as a whole state of being, an attitude, a fundamental defiance. That's a pretty big deal. Okay, so if sin is this state of rebellion, where did it even come from? Well, to understand that, we've got to go back, way back, to the original sin. And you might be surprised to learn that according to this theology, the story doesn't even start on Earth. So here's the chain of events. It all starts, believe it or not, with an angel, Lucifer. His desire to be higher than God, to essentially take God's place, is pegged as the very first sin. Then, this rebellion moves from the heavens to the earth. Now called Satan, he goes to the Garden of Eden and tempts Adam and Eve with the exact same idea, that they too can be like God. And, well, they make their choice. They rebel. And just like that, sin enters the human race. The big consequence? This state of rebellion, this sin nature, is said to be passed down through every single generation. All right, so sin is now part of the human condition. But what does that actually mean for us? How does it show up? If we're inheriting this thing, what are we getting exactly? Well, our source breaks it down into 3 different types of guilt.
Yep, 3. 3 distinct but totally interconnected ways a person is considered guilty in this framework. Let's break them down.
This table lays it all out perfectly. First up, you've got inherited sin. Think of it like inheriting your dad's curly hair or your mom's blue eyes, except in this case, it's a sinful nature, an inner pull to rebel, passed down from Adam. Then there's imputed sin. This one is more like a legal or financial concept. Imagine a debt on a family account. Adam's original guilt is credited to everyone's account, which affects our standing before God. And finally, that leads to personal sin. These are the things we actually do wrong every day, the individual acts that bubble up from that inherited nature. And to back up that idea of inherited sin, theologians often point to verses like this one from Psalm 51. The writer here isn't saying, "I did something bad the day I was born." No, he's talking about his fundamental nature, his state of being. He's saying this inclination was there from the absolute very beginning. Okay, let's zoom in on that second type, imputed sin, because this idea of imputation is absolutely crucial to the whole framework. You can think of it like a cosmic accounting principle, a great transfer, where something is credited from one account to another. And this is where it gets really fascinating. Imputation is like a two-sided coin. On one side, you have the problem. Adam's sin gets transferred or credited to humanity's account. We're all in the red because of it. But then on the other side, you have the solution, which works by the exact same principle. A believer's sin is credited to Christ's account, and then here's the great transfer. Christ's perfect righteousness is credited back to the believer's account. It's a complete reversal. Now, this is a really important clarification the source makes about Jesus. Sin was imputed to him. The legal penalty was placed on his account, but he never inherited a sin nature. So he bore the full penalty, the full weight of it, but he himself never became a sinner. His own perfect nature was never touched by it. That distinction is key. Okay, so we've laid out this threefold problem. It's pretty comprehensive, right? So what's the ultimate cure? What's the resolution for this big threefold mess? Let's quickly recap the problem. First, there's that inherited sin, right? The very nature we're born with. Then you've got the legal side of it, imputed sin, Adam's guilt put on our tab. And finally, the outcome of all that, our personal sins, the stuff we do every single day. So when you put it all together, the source uses this really stark phrase to describe the human condition: 3 times condemned. That's a heavy thought. It really highlights how deep the problem is supposed to be, and why the solution has to be just as deep. So what's the answer to being 3 times condemned? Well, here it is, laid out as a series of steps. It starts with faith in Jesus. Through that, the idea is you receive redemption and forgiveness for all three types of sin: the inherited nature, the imputed guilt, and your personal actions. And it doesn't stop there. It also supposedly gives you the power to fight back against that daily urge to sin. And the stakes are incredibly high. This famous verse from Romans spells out the ultimate consequence of that threefold problem. The wages of sin is death. And in this theology, death isn't just about your body dying. It means an eternal separation from God. So, bringing it all home, what's the end result of this cure, of this great transfer? It's being set free from that final eternal penalty. That's the ultimate goal, the ultimate outcome proposed in this theological framework. And that brings us to a final really interesting question to chew on. Think about our world today. It's all about individualism, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, taking personal responsibility. So, how does a system built on inherited guilt and credited righteousness square with that? How does it challenge the way we normally think about who's responsible for what? It's definitely something worth thinking about.